Hello, 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 and welcome to Two Girls in a Pod.
I'm Christy.
I am Sharon, and oh my goodness, we're so excited to be back.
Took a little break, didn't we?
Just a little bit. But I think, it's one of those things I think it's important for people to kind of take those moments, reassess.
Sometimes you have to regroup.
Exactly. So we were spending this time really thinking about the things that are important to us and why they're important to us, I think, and how do we convey that to the audience that listens.
Yeah.
And particularly, because we really are promoting our mindset coaching company because it's all about getting out of your own way. And what is that mindset? And we have these things that are in our way that we're not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've talked so much on the podcast about how people get stuck in the past or they're so far into the future. So one of the things we've been talking about or we talk about is being present and having that understanding that every moment in life is just a speck in time.
Yeah.
It truly is just a moment in time. It's a speck.
But it's how much we give to that moment to amplify it, to make it bigger maybe than what it is, or
And when we're doing that, not understanding that when I am magnifying this moment, that means I'm minimizing all the other moments. And we don't realize that. And we don't even know the value of those other moments because we're bypassing them. It's like time is going and we're just boom, boom. You know what I mean? It's a balancing act, I think.
it definitely is. And I think that sometimes, whatever the moment, whatever's happening, it can be so overwhelming. And then we allow that moment to define us, regardless of all the other wonderful moments there have been.
Exactly. And so I think if you think about it, you think about how many moments have happened in your lifetime. You couldn't even add them up. It's like trying to count sand on a beach
Mhm.
or the stars in the sky.
Yeah.
That's how many moments we have had. But you ask somebody, oh, do you remember this? And they might be like, oh, no, really, you were there. But it's because they weren't. And what I mean by that is we're not being present.
Yeah.
We're not being present in this moment. We only have this moment.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to have this moment, I want to make it a good moment.
So, whatever it is that you're doing, I think when you are truly present, you are infusing that moment with an intention and having a goal with that moment. The intention that you infuse in that is the biggest piece of it. I mean, whether it be, because I always talk about being present, in a workout or things like that. That concentration, that level of effort that I am putting in is what brings me the biggest reward.
Yes, and then it magnifies all of those things.
Yeah.
I Mine's not working out. I mean, I'm present doing that, but I'm always present when I don't know, it's brushing my teeth. There's something about brushing my teeth that I am so present with it, that I am so present that you can walk up and I am so present with that moment. You startle me because I am so, and I don't know what it is, but that is one of the areas. Or when I cook, I'm very present. I'm looking at the colors and smelling and thinking of how those flavors are going to come together. And it's,
And it plays out. That's exactly how you know when somebody loves to cook. You taste their food, and a lot of the time, that's when you can even recognize that it's been infused with that love and intention that person has put into it because they cared about it to that degree.
and I agree. I think when we put that intention, it doesn't matter what it is. And that's not to say that we're not going to have moments in our life that are sad and can feel devastating. And, when we have loss, there's people being mean to you, or there are those moments as well. There are those negative things, but identifying that it's still just a moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what you were saying earlier about being magnifying those moments and letting them define you completely. to where that you don't feel like that you could be the same because you're so broken or those things. It just becomes that thing that you identify with. And I think that it takes away from other aspects.
Well, I definitely think it minimizes all those other moments.
Yeah.
And once again, it's not to say that you don't. And I would tell people sometimes with those things, we have to just sit with it for a minute. We have to acknowledge it. But and in that moment, that's what I'm doing. I'm acknowledging whatever it is.
Giving yourself that grace to feel the emotion that comes with it.
Yes. Then at that point, I have to sit there and say, do I carry this moment on for another few moments, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year?
Mhm.
That's what that's about, is what are we doing? And why do we have such a hard time being present?
We're always constantly fixated on something that's happened in the past, or just fixated on what we're trying to get to in the future. So you minimize this moment by just trying to get to the next thing.
Well, and then we promote, oh, I'm a good multitasker. But then at the end of the day, you sit there and say, what did I do? A lot of things. And the reason we don't know what we've done is because we're scattered. We're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this and we're tending to this. And it's like watching a movie, but you're watching the movie and you're doing this at the same time, or you're over here doing this and then you're.
And that's why when you go watch the movie later, you don't even remember that part. Oh, yeah, because I wasn't present. I was actually on my phone doing something else. And you don't realize how often we do that.
I mean, I think if it's something that we're investing in, you know what I mean? I always tell people, if you're going to go pay to go to a movie using digital, be present with the movie. Because if not, you're there like, oh, I don't know. What, did you like it? I don't know. What was it about?
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Don't waste that money. Go put it to something else. Whatever that is, we're not present in conversations. Or we have this argument and then we're going to fight about it 10 weeks in a row or whatever it is. It's like, okay, it had its moment.
Mm-hmm.
It done passed. Why are we still doing this? And I understand why sometimes we're going back. The therapist in me sits there and says, I understand why we go back and revisit things, because we get clarity on them. And that's one thing. But we do this without even having a conscious awareness to it, where we are focused on so many things that we're not present. And then we wonder why people feel tired all the time.
Mm-hmm. And why things don't, it's like you were saying about the multitasker. How many incompletes do you have? You did a lot of things in the day, but how many things are, completed? And a lot of the time, I think that becomes an issue.
I'll have some people say, oh my God, I just feel like I'm ADHD. And I'm there like, no, you're not ADHD. You're trying to attend to too many things. And of course, you're not going to get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing all of these things. And even if I ask somebody, say they're having, they're bringing out stuff up from the past, and I say, okay, well, tell me some of those really, grab some of those moments from the past that were positive and good. And let's talk about those.
Silence.
Now, you mean to tell me in these bajillion moments you've had? It's because it takes up too much space. It's in your face. And that makes it very difficult.
Right.
But we have to remember, we are the creators of our moments.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to decide, how do I want to spend this moment? We are choosing to spend this moment right now doing this to talk to you. This is a conscious thing.
Yeah. And I think that others can tell when you are present to that level. When you're having interactions and stuff, people know when you're distracted and that. When you are there and you are truly listening, how much more you can contribute to the conversation, the relationship as a whole. It is that intention in that moment. And when you are present in that moment, you can have that kind of intention.
And I think sometimes, when you talk to people and, they always do that, well, I coulda, woulda, shoulda done that. The question always becomes is, what stopped you? And the answer is usually you, because you chose different moments.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to do things differently. And that's not a judgment or anything. It's just that it's really to help people understand the power that they have.
Well, and how much you can, again, amplify that moment, based on a choice. I mean, I know in the past I struggled with a choice that I had made, and I beat myself up over it for so long. And I felt like it was impactful to the relationship that I had with the other person. And in doing that, I felt like that I started to take away from everything that that relationship had been to me up to that point. And I mean, like I said, tortured myself over that for a long time. So it's like you can amplify those moments or you can learn from them and make different choices down the road.
Exactly. And I think sometimes even when we are beating ourselves up, we often ask ourselves, am I doing this because I really felt I did something wrong? Or did somebody tell me I did something wrong? And that's another thing. We get so caught up in that as well, of living our life through somebody else's lens. And then, once again, you ask that person, talk about those moments, and there's, oh, I did this, this, and this, but there's not a feeling behind it.
Mhm.
It's because they weren't present for it either. They don't feel like it was their moment. And maybe that's part of what it is too. When we're living somebody else's version of who we're supposed to be, and you ask them, bring up those moments, well, maybe they can't because they're not living their version of who they really are.
Mhm.
There's no authenticity in that, or such a small amount in comparison to living, oh, well, you got to do this. Oh, this is your talent. You got to do this. Or, and you're sitting there saying, I don't want to do any of that. I want to basket weave or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's figuring out what is relevant and important to you, deciding what moments are going to be the things that are going to be the star of your life.
Mhm.
And once again, not to minimize, and that's not saying that we do not have bad things that happen, or we don't have those sad moments, or we don't. And I get it, and I know, because when my dad passed away, and I got to see him, he had passed away, but they kept him so I could have that image, and then touching him, and then the finality of it. It kind of put this burned a little image into my brain, and I really struggled with that. And I would talk with you about it, and I would be there like, oh my God, and then I would say, okay, I'm going to think about these other fun things. And it was like a boom, block. This is what I saw. This is what I felt. And then I would be there. No, I'm going to have this. Okay. What did we do on this day? Or just try to think. And I would have this block. And I understand why I did. On the therapeutic part of me says, well, of course it was very traumatic. He passed away before my mom. So this is very, we didn't anticipate and so you do all this rationalization or whatever it was. But I'm grateful now because I still have that moment where I got to hug him that one last time. But now I had to work past, and I didn't want to make that moment the most relevant thing when it came to my relationship with him
Yeah.
or my mom. I didn't want that. I wanted the things that I learned from them, the love that I felt, the laughs, all of that. I wanted those moments to have more representation than him being gone.
Yeah.
So I understood it, and I had to work through it,
Exactly.
because you don't realize those things in those moments. Do you see what I mean? Nobody can tell you that. They can't teach you that.
Yeah. No, that's experience only. And you can't have the clarity until later. Mhm.
And I think sometimes in our society, we do such a disservice to the people who pass away, who we lose, because it's like we focus more on the end of their life than their entire life. And what was that contribution?
Yeah.
Because we get so stuck in the loss that we forget the life. And those are those moments.
Yeah.
And once again, I had to consciously be aware of it. And then I had to make a conscious choice to change that, to look back on moments knowing I'm not going to have a moment with him again.
Mm-hmm.
But by golly, I could bring those really great moments back and I could have a moment with him again.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things that we're talking about is how do we change that philosophy that if it's a bad moment, it holds more value than those wonderful, good moments in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that society, this is a social construct, I think,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. And we, for whatever reason, tend to fixate on negative points a lot of the time.
If you really think about your life, most, I don't say majority of people, not all people, because trust me, there have been some people who've had horrendous lives. And it's always interesting to me, even in the work that I've done, I don't even understand the depths of cruelty to each other. And there's so many things that I haven't had to experience. I've chosen to be a part of these journeys with my clients. And it always amazes me when I have those clients who truly come from a life that is just filled with so much, whether it's abuse or just hate or negativity. And oftentimes those are the ones who will sit there and say, but I remember when I was 7 and this happened. It's like they hold on to that moment. That moment becomes their saving grace.
Right.
And I think to myself always, if they can do that, if they can have that ability, and then we can work to change the moments they're in now and move into a healthier place, it's one of the most amazing things to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always so grateful to be on these journeys with these people, that they allow me in and to be able to see that growth and development in their understanding everything in their life is but a moment. It's a speck in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's no more greater than or less than. It always is what we give to it. What is that level and degree?
Right. I believe that through that healing process and being able to reframe it, you're able to build your resilience, you know?
Yes. And I think it's easy for people, oftentimes will blame this, that, or the other for our bad luck or what misfortune. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay. We'll have that. But I think what it is that because we are taking those moments and we're stringing along those moments that were, say, negative, and we string them along, and then that moment becomes bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then that sometimes gives us that way to justify or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying everybody does it, but what I'm saying is we all tend to do that sometimes, as it's part of our human nature. But when we're also able to, in that healing journey, start to look at the moments in between those moments,
Mm-hmm.
and to realize that I'm not here because of what somebody did to me. I'm here because of my thought about what they did.
Right.
Oftentimes, I tell people aren't doing something to me. When I'm driving down the road and they cut me off, they'll be literally, I'll have this, well, they cut me off. And now their moment is ruined because somebody cut them off. And now they've taken it. How dare they cut me off?
It's a personal attack.
This becomes their new moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because a moment before, they were just driving along, go happy and chill. You know what I'm saying? Now, a moment changed that whole entire thing. So how they decide to handle that moment,
Mm-hmm.
they put value into. And I always tell my clients I have a few who were working on road rage. And I'll tell them, you really think that person they know you? Well, no, because you're some kind of special. I said, guess what? They didn't care if it was your car or any other car. I said, they're having their moment. We don't know what that moment entails. And now, a lot of my ones that have road rage, their road rage went from like 100 and now it's like at 10 because they started to understand I'm letting that little moment, because they could be pissed off all day long. They're like, they cut you off. Really? But do you see? That was one brief moment.
Right.
You think about how fast that second is that they pulled in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And now that second has turned into 7 hours.
Ruin your whole day.
This is how these moments work. But now they understand that if somebody cuts them off, they now have a different reaction, and they realize that they're controlling the moment. The moment is not controlling them.
Right.
And those are the things we're talking about. How do we take control of those things? How do we decide how I'm going to let other people, what they're doing, impact me? And sometimes the stupid stuff that we do individually.
Yeah, we assign the significance of these moments.
Yes.
We are in control of that.
But we often feel like we're not. If you've listened to us before, you know that we are really big we love Eckhart Tolle. We were fortunate to be able to go see him speak in Denver, and he's just phenomenal because he's really about the moment. He's really about the here and the now.
Yes, and if you haven't heard of The Power of Now, that's one of his books. Really great read.
Do you think maybe just in the title itself it tells us something?
You're right.
He's so big on that, and the way he explains it and talking about that moment, those things. And I remember he was talking about when we went and seen him, and he was saying, why does the dog chase his tail? They've been trying to answer that question, right? He goes, because he can. And that's what he's doing in that moment. He's not thinking about, am I going to catch my tail? He's not thinking about anything other. The dog is truly just in the moment. If you ever watch a dog chase his tail, you can just see that total fixation on that. Nothing else exists. Nothing.
Yeah.
So when you look at your fur babies, they will teach you so much. Ours does the same thing. She can be so focused on what she is doing that we can even be talking to her. But you can see it's just like that fixation. I'm in this moment, and this moment only is all that matters. She's not thinking about what's going to happen in 5 hours.
She's not thinking about what's going to happen in 2 seconds when she falls off the couch because she has no concept of spatial, anything. She's just in the moment.
Exactly. She can be a little bit of a handful in that aspect. You're always there like chasing her with your hands underneath to catch her. Oh my goodness. But we love her. You got to love her. But it teaches you that when they want to be petted, they want it in this moment. This is what you're doing with them in this moment.
Yeah.
That's why people who abuse dogs, and they're like, how can that dog still love them? Because they go to the next moment. And in that moment, they're loving you in that moment. It's not about the moment before or the moment after. It's in that moment. But I always remember I'm talking about that dog chasing the tail, and I could just visualize that. And it's true. They're just doing it because it's what they're doing. It's not about the next moment. And I think that's what it is. It's not that we don't plan for future moments. But if I'm going to spend so much time planning for the future moment, by golly, I should be paying attention to the one I've got right now.
I think that's why a lot of the times it's the anticipation of planning something where the most excitement is, because a lot of times it loses something for people when they actually get to do the event, whatever it is, because it's like it was that anticipation of it that they were so fixated on. And so then once it happens, sometimes it's almost anticlimactic that, it's already done or whatever. And then it's, what's the next thing?
Exactly. I think that's a really good point. And I think that so much of the time people they stay in a planning stage.
Yeah.
And when the moment comes, because also I think what happens is when we're planning for future moments, we'll create in our mind how we feel it's going to play out. Then when we get there, if it doesn't play out the way we want it, well, that's a bust. Yeah. When it's really not. It's our perception of how it's supposed to, instead of being present in the moment and letting it play out the way it's supposed to. We have these preconceived ideas.
Yeah.
And how many times have y'all done that? Sat there and had this great game plan, and then you get to it and it's like, well, that didn't turn out the way I thought it should have.
Yeah.
I've had that once or twice.
It happens.
But I think that's what it is. I think when we are looking at those things, it's so busy anticipating a moment or so busy being in a past moment that we're not creating those moments that become our past. We're not creating our past in the way that when we look back on it, we say, I loved how I was in that moment. We're not doing that.
Right.
It's such a disservice.
Yeah.
It is a true disservice to each and every individual who is not doing it.
Right.
Because when you're 90 years old and you want to look back and you want to say that moment, and I was an active participant in it. That moment turned out that way because I was present with it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's almost like magical in a way.
Right.
When we actually be present and we are enjoying those moments and all of that, there's almost this magical feel to it.
Mm-hmm. And being kind to yourself, because a lot of times we're looking at those past moments and sitting there in judgment, but really looking at what our contribution was to the moment.
Exactly. The thing is we are always going to make mistakes. Lordy, lordy, are we going to make mistakes? But the thing is if I make a mistake, I own it. Then it becomes, what did I learn in that moment? And that's what you ask people. It's like, what did you learn in that situation? What did you learn in that moment? Well, I probably should have kept my mouth shut, or, whatever it is. They really didn't want my opinion. Well, why did they ask for it? It was rhetorical. But that's what I mean. Once again, we beat ourselves up, we do all this, and then that only makes that moment more powerful, because now I'm basically feeding it and it's growing, instead of showing yourself, as you said, a little bit of grace and saying, okay, that was stupid, or whatever it was, or that was a lapse in judgment, whatever it is. But showing yourself some grace and then moving on.
Right.
I think we struggle in our society with moving on, and with being, I can't move on if I'm being taught to stay in the past. And I think we see that a lot. I don't care if you're reading something, it's, oh, this happened, whatever it is. It's even like when I'm working with parents on parenting and the kid does something stupid. Well, that was stupid. I'm going to take this away and they don't get this for 900 years, whatever. I'm like, okay, how does that work for you? Well, what do you mean? I said, one of the things is in order for them to understand what the relevance of that moment, I have to let them redeem themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't we all deserve redemption in a way? If I have the ability to make something right that I've done wrong, shouldn't I have that opportunity to do that? So I can change that moment. So if I messed up in this moment, what did I do in the next moment to rectify that?
Yeah, and having an opportunity to earn something back, because if I'm never going to get it back, why do I care?
I always tell my parents, if you go and the punishment has to fit the crime. So is what that child did in that moment, is it really worth 4 weeks or 5 months of this? Or, I always love this one, they'll get it back when I say so, when I feel they've learned their lesson. You don't know if they learned their lesson unless you let them redeem themselves, because then what am I going to do? What behaviors am I going to do that's going to change this? Sometimes we don't use logic in these things. But I was remembering, even when people make mistakes with this, it's a moment.
Yeah.
You can hold on to it forever if you want to, and relationship, do whatever. Don't matter. Everybody has to do themselves. But I think it's just interesting to me when somebody, and sometimes it can be an honest mistake.
Yeah.
People dig their heels in. Well, they hurt me like this, and I'm okay. I always have to remind people, everybody has a story. Everybody is living a version of their story, their life, and everything that comes with it. All of those moments compiled, every moment in my life compiled to put to this moment right here.
Mm-hmm.
To this moment right here.
And we don't know what else is happening that contributes to the choice that they've made.
Exactly. So sometimes we have to show people a little bit of grace too.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's finding out what happened in that moment. But you don't sit there and say, oh, well, that was a big fat mistake. What were you thinking? Or all this, that. Put it into a moment, because that's all it was. It was a speck in time.
Right.
It was a speck in time. The mistakes I've made, they have been a speck in time, because when I look back over my entire life, it really is a speck.
Yeah.
And because we have so many of them, we're not going to remember all of them. Because remember, it's like trying to count sand on the beach or the stars in the sky, because we've had so many of them.
Right.
And I just want, my thing is if for people to be able to make the change where they are taking control of their moments and they're showing their past version of who they are a little bit of grace and understanding that in that moment, in that speck in time, this happened, but that speck came and it went.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just feel like so much of the time we're getting stuck in these things. And as in our business of mindset coaching, it's the same thing. We're looking at people and trying to figure out what are those moments that have happened in the past, because those moments are impacting you in this moment, this current moment, and it's going to impact you in your future moments.
Yeah, it's going to create, whatever mindset you come from to make choices going forward.
Exactly. And that's why what we do is we work to identify those things. What was that moment? And oftentimes, oh no. And as we talk, oh my God, I remember this. And then when we have that moment and we bring it forward, then we can say, okay, what now in this present moment, what could be learned from that past moment, that speck in time? Well, oh my God, no wonder I did that. I was like 15 years old and I was a kid, or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can start putting some perspective on it, which then helps us to change those moments.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that it's constant practice.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And we're always talking about that. It's our favorite thing. You got to practice and be consistent.
Yes.
Consistency, and practice.
Yes.
But that's how we change.
Those skills that you don't use, you lose.
Exactly. And we were just talking about that. Why do we meet with our coaching clients weekly? Because we're building, we're reinforcing, and we're building. So what did you use of your skills? What moments did you see that you used those skills, and what was the difference? What did you have a different outcome?
Yeah.
Well, this is what happened. Okay, then now what in this moment, what can we do to create for the next moment? So those are the things, and those are why those things are so important. And I feel like why realizing and why this topic is important is because when we start to realize that our life is just specks in time, they're just moments. When we start to realize that, maybe we'll pay attention more and we'll look and we'll value these moments and honor them in a different way.
Be able to define them in a different way, to understand them better.
And that's all it is. It's like, once again, what can we do? How do we make these small changes that has the potential to change how I do this moment and the next moment? So we take those specks in time and we use them as a learning tool. That's why history is so important. History is important because it reminds us. And there are a lot of people who really would like to erase their history because maybe they don't like it, or maybe they're embarrassed or ashamed or whatever. But it's not that. It's through our history that we have expansion and change, and we can look back and say, this didn't work for me. I'm not going to do it again. But so much of the time when we try to hide it or minimize history, what happens is the same thing's happening here. They're like, why is this happening?
Because you are lost.
Because you hid your history.
Right.
We cannot hide history.
Yeah.
It's already happened. You cannot erase what has already happened. And that's what I tell all my clients. Everything in your life has to be represented because it's already happened. Right. We never get to erase history. I don't care how hard you try. I don't care the pictures you hide or this, that, or the other, or whatever it is. You cannot hide history because your history is shared by others. So somebody's always going to know history, and somebody's always going to talk about history. So instead, What are all those specks in time? And when we're even talking history, not just our history, we engage with others to create history.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want my contribution to be?
Right.
These are the things we're talking about. If I change this moment, do I change my destiny? If I change this moment, what is remembered of me because of this moment?
Yeah.
And can I be proud of myself because of this moment?
Like we said, when you're present, you are more aware of what your intention is to this moment.
Absolutely. And I think that the more we are out there promoting to people about being present, that's why mindfulness is such a big thing now. When we're talking about mindfulness, meditation, all of these things are on the rise. And the reason they're on the rise is because people are starting to understand the importance of slowing everything down and being present. Because people, you got to be present in your own life. Because the problem a lot of people do is that they're like, oh my God, where did this year go? Where did this 10 years go?
Yeah.
It's a
How's
blur.
my kid already grown?
Really?
That's what we always hear.
Yeah, I don't even understand it. But then you ask them, well, what were you doing? Working? What was your kid doing? Or trying to create too many moments. We have that too. There is a balance in it. And so I think for everybody, it's finding the balance,
Yeah.
showing ourselves some grace,
Mm-hmm.
being present and acknowledging the feelings and all of those things. But then what did I learn from that speck in time, from that moment? And how is it going to help me in this moment and in my future moments? I think those are the things that we're talking about today.
Yes.
And once again, we are so happy and excited to be back. And we're so grateful for everybody who hangs out with us and listens to our podcast. Cannot tell you how the immense gratitude that we have for that. And if you listen to our podcast and you like it, which I hope you do, then if you can tell your friends, family, we're always about increasing our subscribers and viewership. And once again, we greatly appreciate it. And as always, you can find us
At twogirlsinapod.com. And you can interact on there, so you can comment to us if you have ideas or whatever. You hear something that you like in the podcast. We appreciate, telling your friends where to find us. We are also on Facebook and Instagram, Two Girls in a Pod, Life's Journey. And so if you follow us, subscribe on the website, you will receive an email whenever we post a new episode. We appreciate the support.
Yes, you can also find us at Adventures of Two Girls on YouTube.
Yeah, Adventures of Two Girls in a Pod Life's Journey on YouTube, the channel.
And we really appreciate that. Also, anybody who listens to it all knows that we are so big on gratitude. And we put out Grateful Beginnings coloring book collection. You can find on Amazon under Sharon Abeta or Christy Banta. And we appreciate any support with that as well. One of the things is none of this stays without the support of you guys. None of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because, we'll do this if one person's listening. We really will, because we love what we do in this aspect. And we hope that comes through for people. But once again, that support is super important. And we totally appreciate it. Likes, thumbs up, whatever, emojis, whatever. Apparently that counts because, that ugly word I don't like, algorithm. It's dark
It's your
magic.
friend.
It's voodoo, dark magic. I don't understand it. But anyway, we appreciate you guys so much and we're so happy to be back. So we look forward to the next time. And once again, so grateful for all of you. And we hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful, great week and that you are creating those amazing moments and specks in time.
Thank you for listening. Bye.